Self-introduction. Here I'm going to talk about what are the first things you say and do with a survivor of violence to help put them at ease to feel more comfortable to talk with you. Survivors of violence have had to learn how to judge very quickly whether or not they can trust someone. So everything you do and say at the beginning will have a significant impact on whether they will feel comfortable talking to you. Imagine if it was your aunt or your cousin or your brother who had been a victim of violence. When you come up to them, how would you talk with them? What would your body language be like? Your eye contact? What would you say to reassure them without making promises that you can't keep? That is the type of care and empathy that you need to bring to all survivors of violence when you first meet them. So each person's self-introduction can be a little bit different. There's no one way to do it, and this can vary from culture to culture. So I'll explain what I do, but the way you do it will be slightly different. With child survivors of violence, you have to take extra steps to help them feel more comfortable. No matter what country you're in or what culture, it's important with small children, when you go introduce yourself, is to crouch down to their level. If you walk in and you're up here and they're down here, they're going to feel intimidated and scared. So what I do is, I walk in, I crouch down to their level, I look them in the eyes and say, "Hi, my name is Dr. Miller, and I'm here to help." And I ask them to give me 5 or shake my hand, depending on the child. Each child is a little bit different. But when I come down to their level and make eye contact and smile, their first impression is that this person is safe, that they're not a threat. And this has been very helpful for me and for all of my colleagues in the different countries that I've been working in to help children to feel comfortable. What do you explain about your job or your role when you introduce yourself? Well, if you're a doctor or nurse, survivors know that doctors and nurses are there to help. With social workers or police, sometimes kids are very scared because they may think that they're in trouble or they don't know why this is happening. So it's very important after you introduce yourself is to say, one of my jobs is to help kids, so I want to see how I can help. You always want to keep in mind that there are 3 emotions that many survivors are feeling: fear, shame, and self-blame. So one of the first things you can say when you meet a child or an adult survivor is to let them know, if something bad happened to you, it's not your fault. I'm here to find out what happened so I can help you. Perhaps the most important best practice in interviewing a survivor of violence is to interview them alone with no family members or caretakers in the room. Yes, there could be one other coworker of yours or someone from the multidisciplinary team, but there can't be any family members or friends in the room when you interview a survivor. Now, why is that? Naturally you would think, oh, if this mother or this grandmother brings a young 5-year-old girl to you because the grandmother is concerned this girl was abused, it is very normal to think, oh, let's keep the grandmother here with the child because this will help the child feel more comfortable. But in actuality, in most cases, it does not help the child feel more comfortable because they know that what happened to them makes the grandmother sad or mad. And so the child doesn't want to say it in front of the grandmother, right? Or they minimize it. They say, oh, he only touched me. And they don't tell you everything else that happened because they know that the grandmother will get sad or mad and maybe blame the child. And so it's very important. You must interview the survivor alone without a family member present. Now, if that family member insists and says, no, I want to be here, explain to them what I just explained to you, that children and adolescents and even adults don't want to say, they don't want to acknowledge what happened. okay, because of the fear and the self-blame and the shame. Explain this to the family member, that this is what you do in all cases, so that they don't think that you're just singling them out. Let them know this is your policy, that this is the way it must be done. And I can promise you this will definitely help get more children and adult survivors of violence to feel comfortable to tell you what happened. You also want to make sure you're speaking with them somewhere where there's privacy. When you are out in the community, you may be outdoors when you meet them and talk with them. It may be very hard to find a private place. But think about this ahead of time. Where are the places in this community or wherever it is that you work where you could take them even just around a corner somewhere where they're not in plain view? Somewhere for just a few minutes. Just a few minutes might be all that you need and all that they need to feel comfortable to tell you what happened. So make sure you have a private place to speak with them.